Hi, I'm Henry.
And I'm Laura.
We're here bringing you the Frequency Effect by Soaak Technologies.
We are going to go deep in these podcast episodes. We're going to talk about energy, all things frequency, how it affects your life, spirituality, wellness, and all kinds of different topics.
Your frequency is what you think about most frequently. Let's get into it.
This is a Soaak podcast.
Welcome to the Frequency Effect, sponsored by Soaak Technologies, where inspiration fuels innovation. Join our experts as they elevate your mind, body, and spirit, one conversation at a time. This is the Frequency Effect.
Hey, so in this episode, we're going to go over kind of our origin story, how this all got started, tell you about frequencies, and give you a behind-the-scenes look at what Soaak Technologies really is.
So I will dive right into the origin story of Soaak. We get asked this all the time. We have been working on this project, which we call Soaak a project because it's been going on a long time, for about 9 years. It originally started in clinic. I founded the clinic about 9 years ago, and we started using frequency therapy in clinic. And so that's where all of this grew from, is the clinical background. We were in clinic for about 5 years. About 3 years into our in-clinic experience, I got him involved because we were using frequency therapy in clinic, and it was just our favorite modality. It was the least invasive, the least expensive, and just having amazing results. And so I kept telling him about it, and finally he was like, I think we've got something here. And so he is a technical guru, a business guru, and so once he came in the picture, that's when we developed the Soaak and the Soaak app.
So are you saying that I should get all the credit for all of this? Or So yes, hopefully you'll learn to love my personality. I think she put some frequencies on me because we ultimately got married. Quick fact for our origin story. I looked at it, and she wanted to expand rapidly because we were helping so many people in clinic. How do we do this without having to build 500 new facilities? And the answer was take it digital. So we took about 2 years, a lot of time, energy, and money to actually get the same efficacy we were having in clinic in a digital product. And we were able to accomplish that.
Yeah. So a lot of the testimonials we would have in clinic were so amazing and powerful. I kept telling him, I want something that people can do from home because, wellness, in a nutshell, it's a lot. You get wellness fatigue when you're trying to do everything good for yourself, and having a clinic and knowing, all of the things that work. It's very expensive. It's very time consuming. And so the frequencies were one thing that I just loved because you can do them. They're very accessible. You can do them anywhere. And so that's when I started to tell him, we have to put this online in a form where people can do 24/7. And so that was when the Soaak app was being developed. But our clinical trials and our testimonials are just amazing. People would really feel a huge difference after they do a frequency therapy. And so, it's 20 minutes. It's super easy to do, and you can do it while you're doing anything else.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you came at this from a non-scientific standpoint, because you were coming more as a customer because you didn't have a background in this initially before the clinic. So when you came to it, you wanted to know, how can we get results, specific results for things like anxiety, depression, low energy, all the things that we talk about. How could we get those results in a very easy, affordable way? So it was a great approach that you took because you came more from a consumer's viewpoint than a medical type standpoint.
Yeah. So I was actually a hairstylist for 16 years before I started the clinic. And, I was an honorary therapist is what I like to call myself. Yeah, and so
that's true. They say people tell their hairstylists more than they do their psychologists
and their therapists. It's so true. It really is. And it's funny because we still have clinics now to this day, and we have therapists that work for us. And
right.
I'm like, I know exactly what you're going through. Yeah. I know what they're telling you.
Exactly.
But yeah, I would hear all of these things all day long and have such a passion for wanting to help people. And all I could do was make them look beautiful, which is very helpful, to
From the outside.
for your psychology. And but I just had a passion to really help people on a deeper level. And so Like Henry was saying, I had the privilege of coming into Soaak from a customer. I'm not a practitioner. I did end up getting my thermography license and was a technician for thermography. So I have a little bit of medical knowledge, but for the most part, I'm on the outside as a business owner trying to find things that were affordable and effective and efficient and all of that for the clinics. And so my perspective and Henry's perspective as a business owner is really from a consumer perspective. So everything we do is from the feet of consumers and not necessarily a practitioner specifically.
Right. So the charge was, how do we expand this? How do we get it in other states first and then other countries next? And after 2 years of putting all this together and getting the same efficacy that we were getting in clinic from the sound frequency treatments, we actually were able to put that where it's accessible from the mobile phone anywhere in the world 24/7. And I'll kind of jump to the end and then we'll come back and finish our origin story. But we were able to get it into 156 countries right now, available 24/7. So you did a good job.
So now you're giving me all the credit?
Yeah, okay. All right. I'll flip it back to you.
So one thing we're asked a lot is how the frequencies work. Like, that's the biggest question we get.
Or what is a frequency?
What is a frequency? How do frequencies work? And, what are they used for?
Yeah. So I like to talk about, well, you start out with the oscillation because that really sets the basis for then how I look at it when I talk about the square tire being round.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really simplistic. Our bodies are energy, and that is all we are. The whole universe is made up of energy, which looks like it's matter. So everything has a frequency. Everything is oscillating at a certain frequency. And so our bodies are like tuning forks. So if you hold a tuning fork and you have another tuning fork and you hit one tuning fork, eventually the other tuning fork will resonate at that same frequency. And that's exactly how our bodies are. So if you're in a relationship or work or any kind of situation, it could be a train going by or a car honking. It's anything stimulating you on the outside is affecting your frequency. So it's a frequency that's affecting your frequency. And so when your body is oscillating at a certain frequency, it's either oscillating properly at a proper healthy frequency or it's at a chaotic frequency. And so your frequencies can be going, like typically if you see like a spinning wheel, that is our wheel of energy. That's our frequency. But if it's chaotic or stressed or disrupted in any way, it can be very chaotic, and that is when you feel an emotional shift in your body of stress or chaos. So at that moment in time, your frequency changed. And so the Soaak frequencies, frequency therapy, helps the body to oscillate at a proper frequency. So it actually can relieve the body of chaotic energy and help you feel the effects emotionally of, stress release or depression relief or whatever it is that you're going for.
Yeah, I liken it into, I'll talk about my square tire effect now, that when your cells are not oscillating properly, you present with things like anxiety, depression, low energy, low libido, brain fog, all those things. But when you hear a correct frequency from the outside that's unrelenting, meaning it can't change, to next to your body where your cells can actually hear this frequency, then that square tire becomes rounded and it starts oscillating at the proper frequency, the proper vibration. So when you get to that point and you feel that something is just not right, but you can hear a frequency like the frequency compilations that we created, and you're listening to that and it's unrelenting, meaning it can't change, and you're playing it next to you, your body or your cells that are listening, those can change because they have mind, will, and emotions. Those are changeable. The things that are unchangeable are what we present with the frequency compilations. And when you're listening to that long enough, everything oscillates to its highest level. So when it begins oscillating to the perfect frequency, then those feelings of depression, anxiety, low energy, all that start to dissipate. And that was the magic. That was the secret sauce, and that's what we were after and have work so hard to provide.
Yeah. I studied a lot while we were developing the clinic about energy frequencies, obviously, and I really kind of grasped the concept that our bodies and our energy systems are like Velcro. So when we're walking through the world, going through our daily life, everything that we're doing and everything that we're experiencing is Velcroing onto us, and we are experiencing the effects of that, and we can carry that on in our day. Now, the point is, and the goal is, to have yourself in a place where things don't affect you like that. So like that's the end goal, is to protect yourself from all of that stuff and have your love and your peace and your joy inside to where nothing Velcros onto you. So that's the end goal. Keep that in mind. But typically we have to really work at that. And that comes from, a lot of different practices, meditation, forgiveness, and all those things where we can get our spirits in a position where we're strong. But if you're not, and if things are affecting you on a daily basis, that's okay. But to realize it and to be able to use something like Soak to where you can raise your vibrations with a frequency, stop and say a mindful intention or say a prayer in that moment to kind of get your energy back up, get your spirit back up. It's super powerful. And so, studying all this stuff all these years and going through life, with Henry and doing business together, there's so many things that affect your frequency, which is just your energy, which is really your mind, will, and emotions. It's all of those things. And so if you can be mindful of those things throughout the day of what's affecting you and little things you can do to change it, it really can change your entire life.
Yeah, no, it definitely has. And we've gotten testimonials in from 156 different countries that we did a survey, and 97% of everyone who has used Soaak Technologies and using our frequency compilations have all reported that it has made a measurable difference, a positive measurable difference in at least one area of their life. So if we can do something like that on a worldwide basis, that's something worth giving your life towards and giving your life for, because now we're talking about something that's changing the dynamic of the world. And I'm glad we're able to play a small part in that.
Yeah. Another kind of science behind frequencies is Royal Rife is one person who basically cataloged all of the frequencies of the universe. So there's trillions of frequencies, and if you can Google everything about all of this, but there are actual specific megahertz, which is what a frequency is. It's a megahertz. So there's specific megahertz frequencies to every single object in this world, including our human bodies, including our skin and our hair, and everything has its specific frequency, and it's actually cataloged. So that was one fun thing going through the clinic of doing like my geeking out on all this research, is there is actual frequencies for everything in the human body. And so for wellness, you can turn on a frequency if you're having a headache and have a perfect frequency specifically for that, which will calm and help those frequencies that are chaotic oscillate better. And so it helps resolve that issue because it's just basically using sound to make the body oscillate properly. And so it, when I really dug into the science behind it, it was like, this is real. This is not just in our generation either. This is like 100 years old that it's been actually cataloged by scientist after scientist. Royal Rife specifically was one of the first ones. But I just found that fascinating that this has been around since the foundations of the earth, but also in books for centuries.
Well, it's ancient practices, and it's things that has been here meets modern technology.
Yeah.
Today, we're just able to bring this to people through their mobile phones to harness the power of frequencies. And you talked about on some other podcasts we've been on about the ancient pyramids and having frequency rooms all the way back then. So the power of frequencies have been forever, but the ability to use them in your life on a daily basis, like we've created, that you can access these clinically proven sound frequency compositions on your mobile phone has never been done. So I want to make a point, the difference between a frequency and a frequency composition, because there are millions of frequencies, but frequency composition, something that we brought together, since this is our origin story, I'm going to go behind the curtain a little bit. The frequency compositions are a series of 5 to 25 or so frequencies that have been put together in a perfect composition, so that if you pull up a frequency for anxiety, there may be 4 or 5 frequencies in there that are going to correct you at a cellular level and give you some relief from that anxiety. But there's 25 in there. Well, frequencies are also adaptogenic. So that means just like a vitamin, when you take a vitamin and you go to the bathroom and you see a bunch of yellow, like your body's discarding everything that it doesn't need. It's the same with frequencies. They're adaptogenic. So if you've got 25, you may only need 5, you may need 10, you may need 15, you may need 20, but in that composition, that's our secret sauce, something's going to hit.
Right.
And we approach it from different angles, because depending on where you are, how sensitive you are to frequencies will give you your results and the quickness of your results. So we've had some people see results in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We've had some people see results in 5 days or 25 days. But when you combine the composition with putting it into use on a daily basis, then that's when we see the greatest outcomes.
Yeah. Some of the things that we did in clinic to kind of arrive at this, we had practitioners, medical doctors, naturopathic doctors that actually developed these frequencies. And so, when we kind of were roundtabling the discussion of how this is going to work, what are we going to choose, what are we going to try, we would come up with, let's say, a headache example. What are all the things that could be contributing to a headache? It could be dehydration. It could be stress from, a trauma. It could be digestive issues giving you a headache. It could be a lot of different things. And so our practitioners said, what are all the main things that could be contributing to this issue? And that is how we created our frequency compositions, is we thought out everything that it could be. Because like Henry was saying, they're adaptogenic. So the body's only going to kind of absorb what it needs and discard the rest. So there's no harm if you don't have a headache, but you listen to the headache frequency. You're only going to get good things out of it. You're not going to get anything bad out of it, because the body doesn't need it. Which, if you think about it, your cells are oscillating. So if those cells are oscillating properly, and the frequency is trying to get it to oscillate properly, it already is. So it's already doing what it's told. So it's not. It's only good. If you want to try something new, don't be afraid to.
Yeah. We've had no negative side effects that have ever been reported, so that's good news. And by the way, we are not medical doctors. This does not take the place of your medical treatment. We have to give that disclaimer. But we're seeing so many people turn to a more holistic remedy for their problems. And before, all these things were regulated by a lot of different agencies that, in my opinion, ever since COVID, are now being questioned. Are these really the right things to do? Or is the ancient wisdom that everybody's always talked about, should that be questioned now because we have quantum computing? Things like quantum computing that we didn't even have or could operate just a few years ago, that can now actually measure your energy fields, and what used to be considered maybe a little wooey now is science. Because we can literally measure your energy fields and watch your frequencies change. So that's something that I think bringing it forward and opening sort of a new era of people's minds were opened, through COVID. I know COVID did a lot of devastating things, but the one good thing that it did, it opened people's minds and it caused them to question the system. And it broke open things that I think now, with the new administration, people are going to be looking deeper at those things and saying, does this really work for us now, or does it not? So I'm so excited that we're right in the middle of that. I always tell our team we are right in the middle of riding that wave into a more holistic outcome, that it's really going to help people, more than hurt people or have them questioning the system.
Yeah. And also just the accessibility, I think, is a big thing for most people, because it seems like our culture now is busier than we've ever been, and we're always wanting to do good things for ourselves, but we don't necessarily have time. And so that's one thing, developing different things in clinic and different services, is what can you do when you're not in a clinic? What can you do when you're at home? There's a lot of different natural and holistic things that you can do that don't cost a ton of money and are very easy to implement in your daily life. And so
that will change your frequency.
Yeah. Just drinking lemon water. That's one of my daily staples. I don't miss a day where I don't drink lemon water, so it's like.
And she tries to make me not miss a day either, but
I make it for him, but sometimes he doesn't
not always the best thing to drink
it.
the first thing in the morning.
I do it right after I brush my teeth too. So
Yeah. Oh gosh.
when you
That's
are
double.
a master, you will be able
Yeah,
to do that.
when I've elevated to the master level. But that, that brings us to a good point that, the evolution of the app, we've been able to include some of these things that have never been available before, like AI, machine learning. You're
Dual
talking
audio.
about, dual. Well, that's what I was going to say. Why don't you tell them? Because this was kind of your brainchild about habit stacking and having dual audio, because we wanted to create something that you don't have to take out time from your day, or you don't have to mess up your routine. I know we're busy 12, 14 hours a day, and it's hard to say, go somewhere, sit down, be quiet. I mean, you should, but it's very hard to sit down and just not do anything. Right. But that anything helps you so much. Like, there's so much self-care that could go into that. So how can you habit stack and do some of these things during the regular course of your day? And that's when you really came up with the idea of this dual audio.
Yeah. So when we originally started developing the Soaak app, that was one thing that I wanted, was dual audio, which means you can listen to the Soaak frequency while you're listening to anything else. So, I love to listen to audiobooks. I do that almost every day. And so I was always having to choose between my audiobook and my frequency. And so I just kept poking at our tech team and our development team, and I'm like, how much would this cost to develop this dual audio? I'll pay for it. Like, I want it.
I want it today.
Yeah. And so after a while, finally we put it in the queue and it got done. So we have dual audio, which is awesome, because now you can habit stack Soaak with absolutely anything. You can do it while you're working out, while you're cooking dinner, while you're doing laundry.
Listening to your own music, listening to an audio book, any of that.
Right. You can do podcasts behind it. So you could be listening to Soaak behind this podcast, which is cool. So
you're actually getting a frequency treatment while you're listening to an audiobook, or while you're working out, listening to your own music, as you're going to sleep at night. So you can habit stack and do two things at once.
Right.
You don't have to take any extra time out of your day, as it is now, to get a frequency treatment that addresses everything that we've talked about.
So another thing that we believe in wholeheartedly is the power of the mind. I know that the mind controls everything, and you can change your life so drastically if you change your mind. So one thing that we did with Soaak while we were in clinic, this was just a really cool observation that I had when I was there helping kind of develop the services and different things we're doing, is people would come in and they would do the frequency therapy, and it would be life-changing, and that they would really get a lot of relief. And I was talking to our practitioners about why sometimes some people would get better results than other people. And so I dialogued with our practitioners, and they were like, well, we had a great conversation, and I, gave them a lot of hope or a lot of inspiration. Right. And so I was like, there's something to that, people feeling like they have some hope and some positive words spoke over them, that alone can make the change in somebody's mind to then have the effect on their healing or whatever it is that they're going for. So that's when we developed our 21-day programs. So our 21-day programs are different topic-specific programs where you can get bite-sized pieces of information every day, just a couple minutes a day. We send you a push notification through the app, and it's a mindful intention that you think on multiple times, and then you do a deep dive. So you listen to maybe 2 minutes of a deep dive about that mindful intention, and then you can listen to a specific frequency for that. And so that's just something that we have developed over the years with a lot of different thought-leading experts in a lot of different fields.
We did mindful intentions, which are the daily kind of reset your brain, reset your mind. Because if you're going through a hard day and then all of a sudden you get this thing that you can move any mountain because you're strong and all this, just that little interruption may change you 1 or 2%. And if it changes you 1 or 2% at the beginning of your day, by the end of it, just like a golf shot, if you hit off just a little bit at the tee, it winds up in another fairway when it gets way out there. If we can change your mind just a little bit initially, then once that takes off and your day continues, it's totally reset everything. So those are our mindful intentions. The 21-day programs are people that we interviewed, and it's a little bit longer format. We've got a whole library of stuff that will really help speak into your life. But we think that, what you think about, you bring about. So if we can change that thought pattern, if we can give you something, think about one of your friends texting you something like, how's your day going? Like, just that,
or
that makes
awesome.
just that makes me think, I'm doing good and that person cared. So it changes me. It resets my mind. No matter how crappy my day may be going, that one little thing resets. And that's what we implemented because of what you were doing.
Yeah. And also having the interaction from the human, from the person, it makes such a difference in, I think, the power they have to affect that change. And so the frequencies, they're doing their thing, whether you believe it or not, whether you can even hear it or not. It can be on the lowest volume and it's still having the same efficacy as if it was on the loudest volume. And so the frequencies are doing their thing, but when you start asserting your power with intention and saying those things over your life, it's like, oh man, it's a snowball effect of greatness that continues to happen in your life. So, and also, we're from Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's our base, and that's where our clinic is. And so, we've had a lot of different opinions about what we're doing and the whole frequency thing. It's very wooey. We get that. But, studying this for so long, I have scientific evidence out the wazoo that all of this it's scientifically proven. And now quantum computing can actually prove it. And so I'm like,
Yay.
yeah. I mean, we've been through a lot, and answered a lot of questions. That's why we're doing this origin thing for this too, is we want to lay the foundation of what are frequencies. We know they work. We've been doing this a long time. Please ask us any questions in the comments because we would love to answer them. But we're from Tulsa, and so Tulsa is in the Bible Belt. Everybody knows that. And so I'll let him tell a little bit of his story growing up. But this is just something that we are so passionate about. It goes beyond frequencies. It's also spiritual. It's wellness. It's all of those things. And so it all ties together. It all is, like a puzzle in your life. When you start your day, what you're thinking about, what you're listening to, it all makes up your life. And so we're just super passionate about everything we do at Soaak.
Yeah, no, it's a blast, and it's an extension of who we are anyway, really wanting to help people. And like you mentioned, I grew up in Tulsa, traveled the world. I have always called Tulsa my home. But my father was a pastor. And so, believe it or not, when we started this and started talking about frequency, I had a little pushback from my father. And he was like, well, are you sure this is right? And it sounds a little different and all of that. And so I kind of took all those messages that I heard from him and I flipped it on him. And I said, Dad, when God spoke the world into creation, like when he spoke that, what language was he using? Was it English? Was it French? Was it Espanol? I said, no, it was none of those. It was frequency. And the vibration of that frequency is still speaking today. So when he said, let there be light, we hear, let there be light, let there be light, let there be. That frequency is still vibrating and holding light today. So he kind of scratched his head and he said, you may be onto something there, Mm-hmm. So when everything's frequency and you do it with the heart and the intention that we are, and you really believe in something just in life and in general, don't let anybody take that away from you, And for me, growing up sort of in the church, I had to be ready for that, to get those questions. But when I'm questioned about something, it makes me stronger. It makes me think deeper about it. And I come out on the other side better for it.
Yeah.
A lot of people that have also seen other businesses that I've been in, they've said, why frequency? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And I always give them my little thing about getting a desire, like the desire of your heart. When you get a desire, the Latin root word for desire comes from sire, the Latin root word sire, which means of the Father. So the word desire originated with, the Latin root word sire, which means of the Father. And when the Father gives you something, when your Creator gives you something, He's also finished that something already for you. So now all you're doing is just walking it out. Yeah. And so I used, some of the time listening to frequencies, honing into that and sort of walking that out and getting what has kind of already been created for me in my life, that I think that desire of my heart to actually walk that out and let it manifest. So when some people come against that, even my family, if they don't understand it, I don't get angry because it wasn't their desire.
Right.
It wasn't dropped in their heart. It was dropped in my heart. The desire was of the Father for me not necessarily them. I'm using my hands and I'm moving mics and
Getting
and
a little
all
dramatic
that.
over there.
Yeah. I'm starting to get excited.
Don't take an offering.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, no, this is real life, and when somebody doesn't understand your desire, never get mad at them, because it's not their fault, because it wasn't dropped in their spirit. It wasn't dropped in their heart. They don't get it like you might get it. They may be well intended. They may be wanting to help you with something maybe that they struggled with, but it's still your desire. So anyway, when you have that desire, when we had this desire, even when people came against it or called it wooey, when we couldn't explain it scientifically, of course now we can, but when they did that, we kept going. And I would encourage our listeners today that no matter what you have, no matter where you're going in life, when you've had a desire drop down in your heart, no matter what anybody says, don't give up. Yeah. Keep moving forward. Keep taking steps, because you will eventually get there. 8-9 years ago, if we ever would have thought we would have been in 156 countries, I would have laughed at that. Like, how did that happen? And the sure way that it wouldn't have happened is if we would have given up on any one of those years.
Yeah, that's right.
Or any one of those days. And there have been days where I've woken up and said, forget it. This is too much. We're trying to push this boulder too much. But something down on the very, very inside of me said, there's something to this. There's something that I would get a little encouraging word, or somebody would call or say something, or we'd celebrate a little bitty win that would keep me going for that day.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we would get a couple more wins, and then you get momentum going that way, and you become a 9-year overnight success.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
that happens with so many people. So I love that point about where we came from, where I came from. And you have kind of a similar story.
Yeah. So kind of to segue and to go back to the spiritual aspect of us, I was raised in church. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, that whole thing. And, I think the premise and the foundation of what I have learned over all these years is just the unconditional love of God. And, when he spoke, let there be life. Well, his frequency is unconditional love. And so in the form of different frequencies that created, the world we see. And so it's all about unconditional love. And so everything we do at Soaak, everything we do in our personal life, this is something that I feel like I have taught Henry how to be more unconditionally loving, because he'll tell you probably in a different podcast, but he was raised in a school that they fought every day at lunch. Like, it goes way back. And so he's very aggressive in an awesome way, but I have, softened him.
Did you hear that? I'm aggressive in an awesome way.
90%
I want that to be
of the
clipped
time.
from this and used everywhere. Go ahead.
But I think this is probably every man and wife situation is, the man is more aggressive and the woman's softer. And so you're trying to,
find the balance.
Yep. But anyways, back to unconditional love. So that's always like my premise. That's always the foundation of everything that I'm doing, everything that I'm teaching, is if it comes from unconditional love, then you can basically rule out a lot of different things that you're talking about. If it's not in unconditional love, then don't, And so that is what we believe at Soaak, and that is our motto and mission statement is we're just unconditional love. God is unconditional love. And so, being raised in the church, that was kind of a crazy metamorphosis to where I'm at now, because I had a fantastic upbringing. My parents were amazing, very loving.
Well, your dad built churches all over the U.S.
My dad built churches. Yeah, that's part of what he did for a living. And so I had a very blissful, first part of my life, which they say the first 7 years really shapes who you are for the rest of your life. And so I'm very super thankful and grateful for that. But I come from that place. And so developing all of this, I am searching and studying. That's why I am just a student at heart trying to study, because I'm like, what is truth? What is truth about frequencies? What is truth about energy medicine? Because coming from Tulsa and having opposition in certain ways, I want to make sure that I'm saying the truth and what's real, and not just rattling off something I read out of a book. And so it's been a very much of a life study of, wanting to make sure that it's correct and that it's real. And so if you bring everything back to unconditional love and then forgiveness, which is my next thing that you'll hear me say 1 billion times throughout all our podcasts. That's the key. It's the key to life. And so it's a key to happiness, is a key to freedom, emotional freedom, and mental freedom is love and forgiveness.
Yep.
So then he can tell you everything he's learned from me about those topics.
Yes, her humility is the number one thing that I've learned from her. So, yes. But yeah, I think, again, overcoming all that stuff that kind of came against us and being in one mind, in one accord, and being on each other's team. You know, we tease, we kid around, we joke around, we have the playful banter, but I know at the end of the day that you're on my team, and you know at the end of the day I'm on yours. And I would do anything for you, you would do anything for me. And in that, you can rest. So if you're resting in that and having your home life taken care of first, then you can attack business. Then you can have your energy expanded on these other things. But if I'm trying to do business and I don't think, my relationship is right or whatever, we always said if we're right, everything else is right. And that's
the frequency effect.
Exactly. So we take time to do that. We get our frequencies aligned and make sure we're on the same page, and then everything else, it's not easy, but it's done with passion, with energy, because we're not worrying about other things.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Anyway, and that's about as personal as I want to get
enough
on
about
this
enough
podcast.
About us.
Yeah. We're going down a deep rabbit hole now.
We'll do another one.
We appreciate everybody tuning in to this episode. This is a little taste of what you're going to get. She had a miracle in her life where there was an ungodly amount of money come into her bank account from people she didn't even know that helped start all this. I've had personal things happen to me through different healings and things that I've experienced in my life. We've had things. We're on our second contract with the U.S. Air Force. We're negotiating our third. We're doing things that we never thought in a million years. I mean, when you get a check from the Pentagon, when you almost gave up a few years ago, like that's some real stuff that I want to bring people through more, that metamorphosis and what we did, and not just what we did to look at us, but if we can do it, anybody can do it, because we're all alike. Right. I mean, you've taught unconditional love, which I believe in, and you've also taught, and I've taught, that we're all same. We're all from the same cloth. We're all really as one, and so anything that I can do by example, anybody else can do that's listening to my voice right now. Anybody can do. I look to other people. I like to celebrate other people and their accomplishments, because I know if they can do it, I can do it. So I want to be that example for anybody ever hearing this podcast, knowing that whatever we've been through, whatever process we can teach, they can do it too, period.
Yeah, one of my favorite sayings is we are an extension, not a projection. So as humans, we project onto the world around us, but we are supposed to be an extension of love. And so if we are just being love, then we are extending, and our frequencies are affecting and extending out into the world around us. And so that is being just an extension of God's hands, basically, instead of projecting projecting your stress or whatever onto other people. So, that's the way to live, is just to, be love. But how do you accomplish that? That's what we're going to talk about. That's what we talk about in our podcast episodes. But it's just little things you can do to elevate your frequencies, and it's being mindful of what your frequencies are affecting and what you're doing to affect your frequencies in your family and the world around you. So if we all do a little bit, the world would be astronomically different if we all just did a little bit. And so
it would be awesomely aggressive. That's what the world would be. Come with us on this journey, learn with us, live with us, love with us, and make sure you subscribe so that when we come out with another episode, you guys can click in, send us your questions. We'll have some days where we just take questions from our audience, and we're so happy to be here with you. So until next time, join us on The Frequency Effect.
Thank you for sharing your time with us today. After you've subscribed at Soaak Podcast, please leave us your questions and comments. Remember, your frequency is what you think about most frequently. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.